Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I, 61 female, raised my daughter, Rachel, 34 female, entirely on my own. Her father left when she was just under 2 years old. One day he told me he was going to the store to pick up diapers, and he never came back. I found out later he'd run off with a coworker and moved to another state. No child support, no contact, nothing. I was alone from that moment on. I didn't have a fancy career, no college degree. I worked in diners, cleaned houses, worked retail, whatever I could do to keep us afloat. Some months I'd pull in 80-hour weeks. I sacrificed my health, my personal life, and every shred of my energy to make sure Rachel never went hungry or homeless. There were nights I went to bed with an empty stomach so she could have seconds. I bought her new clothes while I wore the same coat for 6 winters. I didn't date seriously because I didn't want to bring instability into her life. Every decision I made revolved around her. Did we struggle financially? Absolutely. We always rented small apartments because I could never save enough for a house. Every time I thought I was getting ahead, something happened. A broken car, a medical bill, an unexpected layoff. I sometimes cried myself to sleep worrying about the rent. But I thought it was worth it because I was giving Rachel a stable life, something I never had as a child. I thought she would understand that one day, that she'd grow up, look back, and realize how much I gave. For my 60th birthday, Rachel threw a dinner for me at a nice restaurant. She invited some extended family, a few of my friends, and several of her friends. I was touched at first. I thought, wow, she's finally recognizing me. Maybe this is her way of thanking me. I was wrong. Toward the end of the dinner, Rachel stood up to give a toast. She clinked her glass and smiled like she was about to say something heartfelt. I braced myself for an emotional moment. Instead, she laughed and said, "Let's all raise a glass to my mom." She worked her whole life, sometimes 3 jobs at a time, and still never managed to buy a house. 60 years old and still renting. If that's not dedication to poverty, I don't know what is. The whole table laughed. I felt my heart stop. She kept going, but seriously, she's the hardest working person I know. I mean, look at her. Worked herself to the bone and still has nothing to show for it. That's commitment. Everyone laughed again, some nervously, some genuinely. I just sat there, staring at my plate, my face burning. I felt like someone had kicked me in the stomach. Afterward, I confronted her privately. I told her that was humiliating, cruel even. I wasn't some lazy person who frittered money away. I had given up everything for her. Her response? "I was just stating facts, Mom. Don't be so sensitive. It's not my fault you worked your whole life and have nothing to show for it." I went home that night and cried until my ribs hurt. That moment changed something in me. A switch flipped. For the first time, I realized how little she valued my sacrifices. To her, success meant property, assets, money. And because I didn't have those things, my life was, in her eyes, a failure. 3 months ago, my Aunt Louise passed away. She was my late mother's sister. We weren't close. She lived in France for most of her life after marrying a wealthy businessman. They never had children. Our contact was minimal over the years. Holiday cards, the occasional phone call. She sent me a scarf once. That was about it. I hadn't spoken to her in years when I got the call from her lawyer. She left her entire estate to me. Apparently, Louise had no one left, no kids, no husband. He'd passed away 10 years prior, and I was her only living relative. Her estate included 2 properties in France, 1 in Switzerland, and several large investment accounts. Her net worth? Somewhere in the ballpark of 7.3 million euros. After taxes and legal fees, it still left me with more money than I ever dreamed of seeing in my lifetime. I went from a 61-year-old woman renting a 1-bedroom apartment to a multi-millionaire overnight. At first, I wasn't going to tell Rachel, but part of me thought, maybe this can be a fresh start. Maybe now she'll understand that sometimes life just doesn't work out the way you planned, but that doesn't mean it's a failure. I thought she'd be happy for me. So I told her. Her reaction? Her eyes lit up, and then she said, "I hope you're not planning to waste it. After the miserable childhood I had, you owe me at least half." I asked her what she meant by miserable childhood. She said, "Mom, I grew up poor because you couldn't manage your life. We rented apartments. I had secondhand clothes all the time. Do you know how embarrassing that was? My friends had houses, backyards, pools. You gave me stress, not stability. That crushed me." I reminded her of the things she did have: new school supplies every year, dance lessons, birthday parties, braces, help with college. I reminded her how I skipped meals so she could eat, how I stayed up late sewing costumes for her school plays, how I never once asked for anything back. Her response: "Well, that was your job. You're the mom." That was the moment I decided, Rachel won't be inheriting a cent from me. I told her that directly. I said, "Since you think I'm so useless, you won't have to worry about my money being wasted. I'm leaving it all to an orphanage. These kids have no one. They've been abandoned, neglected, shuffled through the system. They're grateful for every book, every warm meal, every kind word. They don't mock the people who help them." I contacted my lawyer and updated my will the next week. Rachel was furious. She told me I was being petty, vindictive, and trying to punish her for telling the truth. She said, "You're proving my point, Mom. You're bitter because you know I'm right. You didn't build anything, and now you're angry at me for pointing it out." She also said she plans to sue me after I'm gone, that she'll contest the will because I owe her for raising her in poverty. She claims there's an implied promise that parents pass their wealth to their children. For the record, there is no legal case here. I never promised her anything. My lawyer says she doesn't have a leg to stand on. But emotionally, this whole thing is eating me alive. I didn't expect my daughter to kiss my feet for raising her, but I did think she'd at least have some respect for the fact that I did it alone, that I sacrificed my entire life to give her the best I could. I never bought a house because I was too busy paying for her life. I never built a retirement fund because I spent my money on her education. I never took a vacation because I was working overtime so she could go on school trips. And now she thinks my life was a waste because I don't own property? She's not struggling financially, by the way. Rachel has a good job, a husband who works in tech, and they own a condo in the city. They travel twice a year. She just thinks, because she had to grow up without luxury, I owe her compensation now that I finally have money. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for leaving my inheritance to an orphanage instead of my daughter, after she mocked me for being poor on my 60th birthday and told me I owe her for her miserable childhood? Not the a-hole. OP's daughter didn't just state a fact. She humiliated OP publicly, reduced OP's life sacrifices to a punchline, and now feels entitled to wealth that isn't hers. That's not honesty. That's cruelty wrapped in arrogance. OP didn't owe her a luxurious childhood. OP owed her love, safety, and care, and she gave her all of that while breaking her back to do it alone. She wants to act like inheritance is an automatic right, but it's not. It's a gift. And frankly, she's shown she doesn't deserve it. And now let's hear community's opinion. Let's break this down. You raised her alone. You sacrificed everything. She mocked you publicly on your birthday, then demanded you give her the money you finally came into, because she feels cheated by life? That's beyond entitlement. That's emotional extortion. The fact that you're choosing to help orphans, kids who have no parents at all, speaks volumes about your character. You're turning pain into kindness for kids who genuinely need it, not the a-hole. You're giving the money to people who will actually appreciate it. There's a huge difference between telling the truth and weaponizing someone's hardships against them. Your daughter didn't lovingly point out facts. She used your struggles to shame you. And now that you finally have security, she thinks she's entitled to it because she didn't get a fancy childhood. That's not how life works. You don't get to mock someone for being poor and then demand their wealth when things turn around. Not the a-hole. Your money. Your choice. This isn't about the inheritance. This is about control. Your daughter feels entitled to you, your labor, your money, and your dignity. When you refuse to play along, she calls you bitter. But you're not bitter. You're free. Leaving the money to an orphanage is poetic. Those kids will appreciate it. They won't sit at your funeral talking about how you failed because you didn't own a house. Not the a-hole. You're finally setting a boundary, and that's priceless. Title seems like I'm bitter, and a part of me is, because of the fact that I told her so. I'm now 34 female and middle child to a single Asian mother. I have an older brother who is a decade older, and for his whole life, my mom has babied him. I was expected to contribute to the household when I graduated college at 21 female, but he didn't have to at 31 because he was still in school at community college. She gave him gas money, let him take her car, sleep in, not cook, have me do his laundry, etc. I moved out over 10 years ago and have always kept her at a distance. Due to issues, I don't want my brother in my life or my family's life. I've made that clear with my mother that I will let her have a relationship with my kid, but she is not allowed near him, vice versa. She would get upset at me for hanging up when she showed my kid to my brother on my FaceTime. When I find out that she took my kid to her house to play with my brother and post pictures all over Facebook, I told her no more and that I asked nicely a few times, and you ruined it by not respecting me. Constant years of this and disregarding me and my boundaries. On to the issue. My mom was living with him for a few years now. She still kept cooking for him and everything, and he was working somewhat and paying his portion of the rent. Well, now he moved out, and she is left room surfing with friends and family. She came to my house and cried to me that I don't call her to update her on my life or my family, that she now doesn't live with him and is room surfing. I just replied and asked her point blank, what happened to my brother? She got upset and cried and left. She didn't plan retirement at all. In fact, when I was a teen, I was told that I was to be her retirement and she would be moving in with me, which I said no and worked my butt off so I can leave ASAP. See, I would have taken care of my mom had she not disrespected me all these years to the point I am low contact with her. I keep in contact here and there for my kid. I feel bad because she is my mom, but at the same time, it's not like all this wasn't foreseen. I was stressing for years saying this would happen, and here we are. I refuse to help her financially because her son can, and will not allow her to move in because my mental health comes first. Soon I will get family members who have been helping her with room and board reach out to me. I don't feel like an a-hole for not wanting to help her because this is the result of all those years of mistreatment. But I do feel like an a-hole because she's my mom. I need unbiased opinions. Thank you. Edit. I do see some people asking about my younger sibling. She left the family a decade ago due to my mother's treatment of her. I was out of the house and on my own, while she was not. She chooses not to communicate with any of us, and I'm fine with that, as I know she has resentment for me due to how my mom always compared her to me, which is not fair. Her mental health is important, and what she needs to do for that is fine. She communicates with other family, though, and wants nothing to do with my mom. We are Chinese, and yes, by Chinese tradition, it's the male's job to take care of the mother anyway, while the girl goes off with her husband's family. My family knows who he is, as he has lied to them about money, worked for them at their businesses, but rolls up late and leaves work early, uses their stuff and breaks it without a care, etc. My mom tries to tell him, but he just tells her that he's a grown man and can do what he wants. All of this isn't a surprise to the family, but it for some reason is to my mom. Oh, and yes, she works, still does. She does nails and did not pay into her retirement account. This is why I'm conflicted and might just offer some money to help. We'll see. Thinking hard right now. Think of it as my payment to keep her out of my house. But it could open the door for more stuff because she'll push, and this is seen to me as giving in somewhat. Not the a-hole. It sounds like you've set healthy boundaries and just need some reassurance since she's your mom. Is this okay? And it absolutely is. She's an adult and needs to figure out her own life. Keep on with what you're doing. You're not the a-hole for maintaining your own life and mental health. Not the a-hole. There are people who do not pay attention to the crap storms they create. Those people really don't like it when the day arrives that forces them to acknowledge it. Your mom decided to coddle your brother well into adulthood. She was clear that you were her retirement plan, not the son she showered with preferential treatment. I think the damage is done. She can sit in her crap and spin. That's my unbiased opinion. Not the a-hole. It boggles my mind how parents play favorites in such an obvious way and always seem to expect the non-favorite to take care of them in old age. She showed you for years what you were worth compared to her golden child. You are not the a-hole for setting boundaries and refusing to bow down to her now that she is turning to you. Beyond the clear favoritism, she has shown repeatedly that she doesn't respect your wishes for your own child. If she lived with you, that would only worsen. Hold firm on your boundaries. I, 28 female, talked to my stepdaughter, 16 female, a few months ago before summer started, and asked if she could babysit her siblings for the summer since me and her father both work, and since I'm pregnant, all the extra money is needed. She said no because she's already made plans for the summer, and she would rather not babysit the whole summer. But if I need help every once in a while, I could text her. I told her no because it's a full-time thing and I need her every day. A week or so later, I find out that she's babysitting her aunt's kids for the summer, and when I asked her why she lied, she said that her aunt is paying her and helping her learn Spanish. She's half Puerto Rican. She also said that her aunt is taking her to Puerto Rico, and she wanted to get more in touch with her culture. I told her that she should always choose family over money, and now I know that having a fun time is worth more than spending time with her family, and don't even bother coming to live with us for school. She left me on red, and only texted my husband during Father's Day and on her sibling's birthday. School started and she hasn't come over once since the whole time when she would usually come every weekend, nor have my other stepkids since they only come when she comes over. My husband is now mad at me, blaming me for driving his kids away from him, and my kids keep asking when is she coming over. Am I the a-hole for telling my stepdaughter to not bother coming to school with us this year? Yes, the a-hole. Your stepdaughter doesn't exist to provide free childcare for you for a whole summer. Stop being salty that she chose the person that values her enough to pay her. How are you surprised that your manipulative threat didn't work? Yes, the a-hole. Isn't her aunt family? Aunt versus wicked stepmother? Sounds like she did choose family. Aunt who pays for babysitting, engages in mutually beneficial exchange, invests in exposing her niece to culture and travel that is meaningful to her niece. Or stepmom that is pregnant and can't afford childcare and wants a full-time free sitter. Damn, hard to choose. Yes, the a-hole. I actually had to put my phone down and walk away a second before coming back to this message. I will not call you out of your name, but you are not very considerate as a person. Pay for a babysitter. Your husband's child is not free childcare as she's just a child herself. And amusingly enough, you're not far off of her age. That 16-year-old was incredibly mature in how she handled you. She's classy as all hell, and her siblings are cool as hell for backing her. Ask your husband why he married someone just 12 years older than his child, and please give me the answer, cause I just want to know. My husband and I have been married for 21 years, and we have 3 children together. 2 daughters ages 16 and 15, and a son who is 13. My husband and I have always had a good marriage, and are very similar in many ways, except one. Our taste in names. My husband always preferred a more traditional and classic name, while I preferred a name like my own, more different and out there and modern. When it came to naming our children, there were no names we both liked, so we compromised. My husband named our oldest, I named our second child, and our son was given a first name by my husband and a middle name by me. Our oldest has never liked her name. She asked to change it a few times over the years, asking for a name more like her sister. My husband would tell her how beautiful her name was and how it was meaningful because it represented her family. She said it felt boring and old. In the last 2 years, she's been more open about this and has brought it to our attention many times after. She found a name she loves that she's been using and wants to use it. Recently, she sat us down and asked that we consider letting her change it before she turns 18, and she can start off her adult life with less paperwork needing to be changed and less hoops to jump through. My husband shot it down hard. He told her that she has a beautiful name and that she will be thankful for it in a few years when she enters the professional world and wants to be taken seriously. Our daughter pointed out that I never had trouble. He told her he gave her the name with love, with thought, and tied her to several family members. When she pressed more, he told her the decision was final. I told her we would discuss it and talk to her again. My husband said no way. Once we were alone, I told him to get over himself, that I understood he loved her name as it is now and had poured love into choosing her name, but he's not the one who has to live with it, and I pointed out that he will alienate her by refusing point blank to even consider it, and to take such a hard stance, which implies quite strongly that even if she changed her name at 18, he would still call her by the name he gave her. He said that is exactly what he would do, and I told him that everything I said needed to be emphasized then. He said I couldn't talk because all our kids apparently favor my taste in names, and he might as well not have chosen any names or cared at all. I could tell he was upset. He felt somewhat personally rejected by it, so I am now questioning if I am the a-hole. Not the a-hole. It is her life, and as long as she doesn't want to be called catch-up or something that will actually make problems, it is fine. This also doesn't seem to be a mood or something she will be over in a month. Not the a-hole. I totally get that he's upset since it's the only name he chose, but he isn't the one who has to live with it. He'll be the a-hole if he refuses to support your child or denies the name change once they're 18. Hopefully he'll come around. Not the a-hole. In my opinion, you should encourage your husband to concede on this for the sake of his relationship with his daughter, particularly given that she will soon be able to change it with or without his consent. Conceding and supporting her wishes now is an opportunity to demonstrate his respect for her ability to make her own decisions, even though he legally doesn't have to. Waiting for her to take matters into her own hands will mean that opportunity on this issue is gone forever. My wife and I have a 7-year-old with autism. I love him to the end of the earth, but even his good days are tough. When I met my wife, we basically discussed everything relationship-wise from the start, what we wanted. We both agreed on having a big family, minimum of 3 children. I come from big family upon big family. My mother has 11 siblings, all who have at least 4 kids each, and most of them have a few kids. My youngest cousins are still in high school, but they also plan on having several kids. My dad comes from less of a large family, but he's one of 6, and all his siblings have at least 2 kids each, some with kids of their own. I'm one of 8. My wife is sort of the opposite. She's the only child. Her dad has 1 brother. Her mother was also an only child. She claims her life was always incredibly boring. Family gatherings were never more than 10 people. Roughly a half of my family moved back to Germany and some to Australia. But even still, our family gatherings are huge. Anyway, my wife has been angling for a second baby for some time now. I've always said I wasn't ready, but wound up telling her the truth 4 days ago. I told her I didn't want a baby because it would negatively affect our current son. She got pissy and said we couldn't let him control our lives. I got angry and told her we can't upturn his life because she has some magical dream with 12 kids. The point of big families is that the parent loves all the children, and they're closer for it. A big family isn't going to work if you just have another baby when you get bored of the old one. She told me I was cruel for changing my mind, and I told her life doesn't work out the way we want. We couldn't have predicted our son would need this much care, but he does, and we can't bring a baby into this family. She packed a bag and left. Her mother called me and insulted me a little because I was destroying her daughter. I told her she shouldn't have agreed to have a baby with me if she wasn't prepared for a child with additional needs. I've contacted a few family members who I'm closest with, and they agree that he wouldn't cope. Am I the a-hole? I understand I've deeply upset my wife, but our son's well-being shouldn't come before anything in my opinion. I hoped it would blow over, but it's been a while. Edit. My wife's been putting in less effort with him. Every time he has a meltdown, she either ignores him or calls me to help him through it. He's still in nappies, diapers, full-time, and she refuses to change him because he's too old. She doesn't interact with him as much either. I was tired and angry when I wrote the post. I'm not sure if bored's the right word, but she doesn't seem like she wants to spend time with him anymore. Back to add that my son's therapist recommended keeping him away from small children. Yes, the a-hole, although I understand it is a stressful situation. But your wife didn't get pissy. She was disappointed and upset because you dropped the bombshell that you had changed your mind. And I'm pretty sure this isn't some magical dream with 12 kids. Do you not hear how cruelly dismissive this sounds? It's not her responsibility to adjust immediately and say, "Oh well, I suppose you're right." I expect when you got together, she was hoping for a partnership, not a dictatorship. Yes, the a-hole, for implying that your wife wants another child because she's bored of the old one. Even this post is written as if you're the only person that's concerned about your child's well-being. Are you the sole caretaker of your child? Because unless you are, I don't really understand why you think you're uniquely positioned to have the final say on what your son can or cannot deal with. Seems to me that you're the one that can't cope with more, and that's perfectly understandable, but crapping on your wife's valid feelings just to deflect your own is only going to end up in divorce court. Yes, the a-hole, not for changing your mind and not wanting more kids, but for how you addressed it with her. Instead of sitting down and calmly explaining to her that, after a lot of time thinking about it, you've realized that you just really aren't able to deal with another child on top of your son's needs, and that you also feel that having another baby could have negative effects on your son, and, potentially, leaving the younger child feeling a bit resentful at the attention your son needs. You instead lashed out at her in anger and insulted her. That was unfair and uncalled for, and definitely makes you an a-hole. You should apologize to her, and once tensions aren't quite so high, Have a rational conversation about both your feelings. My husband died 5 years ago and he was 45 years old, and I'm 45 years old. We had a son who's 20 years old and is presently rounding up college, and he was really close to my husband and took it pretty badly. He did lash out at me a lot when it first happened, but with therapy our relationship slowly but surely got better. To ease things off him, I decided to pay for college, accommodation and everything, so he could just concentrate on his studies. And it has worked out well. He's really smart and he's doing well. I put off having a relationship because I felt I was just not ready yet and still grieving. This year I met someone who I clicked with. He's never been married and we've been taking things real slow, and he's so amazing. We've been going out for 5 months now, and I really see things headed in a good direction. I went up to my son's college city like I usually do to spend some time with him, and I decided to let him know about me dating again. He reacted terribly to it and accused me of trying to replace his father. But what really struck me was him saying that I was choosing a man over him, and this was why he wished I was gone instead of his dad. It really broke me, because I don't know, I've always suspected he felt that way, but having it confirmed just really hurt. And I got angry, and I told him that if that's how he feels, then maybe he should consider me dead to him, and I left for home. I know I overreacted, and I called once I returned home to apologize, but he has me blocked. I feel terrible that I've let down my son and my late husband. Yikes, not the a-hole. And to be clear, it doesn't appear you were choosing a relationship over your son. You've spent 5 years putting your son first in his grief. It's perfectly acceptable to want to be happy yourself, and I'm glad that you found someone who makes you feel that way. Not the a-hole. OP, he is an adult, and it's been 5 years of you grieving yourself. You're finally ready to share your life with someone else, and that's okay. Do not feel you're letting anyone down by making a little more room in your heart for someone else.